So you're thinking about selling your home. Let's talk about all the things that you really need to know before you start this process. The number one question I get when people are starting the process of wanting to sell their property is, Cory, what do you think my home would really sell for in this market today? And what I'll do to determine that is I'll start by looking at, number one, the property, the condition, the location, all the different features that the home has to offer, or land, whatever you're looking to sell. And I'll look at comparable sales that are there in your neighborhood or your general area. And we'll come up with a comparative market valuation. And that's going to let us know what I think your property has the best chance of selling at. Now, of course, if we look at your property in the springtime and then 6 months down the road, you're like, yeah, we're ready to put it on the market now, we're gonna have to look at those numbers again, because the real estate market is very fluid and it is constantly changing. So we want to make sure that we're going off of the most up-to-date data that we have available. After we come up with what the listing price is going to be, we're going to sign a listing agreement, and that's where you're going to hire me as your real estate agent to market the property to prospective buyers. In this agreement, it's going to outline important details like the listing price, our listing commission. It's going to outline when the property is going on the market and how long it's going to be on the market. When it comes to preparing your listing for the market, we're going to consult over things that you may want to do before we get the listing photos. We're going to talk about any deferred maintenance items that I think you should address. And if you're in a position where you don't want to address any of those issues, maybe we have a conversation about addressing that with the price or concession that we offer the buyer. Once the listing's prepped, we're going to bring our team in with photography, videography, and they're going to go through, they're going to get beautiful listing photos, they're going to get a beautiful listing walkthrough video, and we're really going to showcase your property in the best light possible. Our goal is to get as much quality content about your home in front of as many qualified buyers as possible. When the listing hits the market, we're going to have scheduled showings, we're going to have scheduled open houses, and of course, we're going to be in constant communication with you about those scheduled showings. And then we're going to work to get feedback from buyers and see if there's anything we need to adjust in our offering, or maybe just some easy things that we can fix to entice buyers to make an offer. Whenever it comes to getting an offer from a buyer, we're going to go through that line by line. We're going to look at all the important details. We're going to work out a net sheet to show how their offer, as it's written, affects you and what you're going to walk away with after the property sells. We're going to talk about the contingencies that they may have written in. We're going to talk about what it means to get an as-is offer here in the state of Texas. As-is only means as is with what they know about it whenever they looked at the property. Buyers are probably most likely going to be doing a property inspection. Things could change after they do that inspection, and maybe they find some material defects that you didn't know about, they didn't know about, but can drastically affect the condition of the property. Once we come to an agreement on any inspection items that may or may not have come up during that process, we're going to be moving forward with the title search. And that's where the title company is going to be doing an abstract of title. They're going to be checking to make sure that there's no outstanding liens or debts or judgments against the property other than your mortgage or any loans that you've taken out, like a home equity line of credit or anything like that. They do this so that they can issue free and clear title to the buyer whenever they go to close their loan on the property. If the buyer's paying cash, that is typically the last step in the process. However, we see a lot of buyers using financing these days. If they're getting a home loan, the appraiser is going to come in. They're going to do a brief inspection of the property, make sure the condition is acceptable for the lender, make sure that the property is actually worth what we're under contract at. And they're going to be looking at comps just like the ones that we went over before we listed the property. So the data that I'm showing you in our initial meeting is typically the same data that the appraiser is going to be looking at. And that's why our pricing strategy is so important. We want to make sure that we're setting the listing up for success and that we're not going to get to the appraisal process and then the whole transaction just die because we had an unrealistic value in the beginning. The appraisal process is typically the last step in the transaction, and once we get to that point, this is where you want to make sure you have your movers lined up. You want to make sure that any repairs that we may have agreed upon in the inspection period are completed, and we want to make sure that everything is ready for closing. The title company is going to be issuing a settlement statement for you to review. I'm going to take a look at that as well, make sure all of the settlement charges look good, make sure the net that we talked about whenever we first got the offer is pretty much the same unless there was anything unexpected in the payoffs. Once we review that settlement statement and everything looks good to you, the next step is just showing up at the title company. You're going to bring your driver's license or valid ID. You're going to sign the closing documents. The buyers are going to fund the transaction, or their lender is going to fund it. and then you'll receive your proceeds. Now, there may be a situation where we negotiate you a lease back where you're gonna stay after closing for a predetermined amount of time while you're either buying your new home or possibly building a home. And if that's the case, we can always address that. It's important to have those details on the front end whenever we're talking about what your transition plan is, so that we can make sure that we're talking to the buyer about those details and everybody's on the same page. So that's all there is to it on the home selling process. I know it sounds like a lot of information, but that's really where we step in, is to make sure that it's a smooth process, make sure you're informed along the way, and that you're getting the best deal to put the most amount of money in your pocket. If you have questions, or you're thinking about selling, or maybe you're just curious what your home's worth, be sure and reach out to our team. We would love to help you out. My name's Cory with the Meals team. I hope you're doing well, and I'll talk to you soon.